All right, we'd like to get started. So if you would please bring Class 1 yearling rams to the ring, I would surely appreciate it.
As we get out here in our first class of the morning, we've got to start out with our yearling rams, and there's some differences in size and scale and type and kind, but we're going to start off with a sheep to me that I think puts it together best in the carcass characteristics. I really believe when you get your hands on this sheep and you look at the depth of the loin and the width of his loin, he may not be the biggest in size and scale and frame score, but I think he's carrying the most amount of product down his top and his spinal column. I really like the depth of loin on this sheep. He's really wide. He's really muscular. I think he's the right kind. We get so tied up on size and scale a lot of times in frame score, and really what's that really doing for you? It's not. It's just making you build taller fences. Well, we really want a sheep that's going to put a lot of product out there, and I think the sheep that starts the class off with just really big and bold in the spring of his rib. I think he's very productive and really good in his conversion type. We're going to start with him and follow him with this really big framey sheep. No doubt about it, the sheep in second's the tallest in terms of size and scale. He's longer from his underline. I do like that extension about him. I don't need him to be tall, but I do like to keep him long. I think it's just easier on these mamas to be able to have a set of twins and triplets in them and be able to raise them that way. Because when you get your hands on him, and I realize he's in a little bit thinner condition than the sheep, but I just don't see him having that depth of loin all the way through that the sheep that we start the class with. As we move down in thirds, a really pretty colored sheep. We like his length this side. We like his extension through his front end. We just need to make him wider, bolder down his top, just give him more width and dimension, more product in the center of his loin. Let's give them all three a round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for Class 2, Senior Lamb. Results of Class 1, first and second went to Doug Brewer, and first and open was Carolyn King, and third and open and first and 4-H. There should be 2 entries in this class.
As we get in this class, we're going to leave them as they come in the arena. I think we've got just a little bit more muscularity down the top. We've got a little bit more length to side in the sheep that we start the class with. I think when we get him to a mature ram, we're probably going to have a little bit bolder spring of rib, a little bit more depth to his body. But two really nice, very uniform, consistent sheep. I just think there's just a tick more product in the sheep we start the class with. So let's give these two a round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for a pair of seniors. We're good. Okay, next will be Class 4 Early Junior Lamb. Results Class 2, first and second went to Doug Brewer, and in Class 3, first went to Doug Brewer.
As we get in this class of ram lambs, there's definitely a difference in size and scale, but when you get your hands on them and you look right down their top, I think we've got an easy class winner when we combine the length of side and skeletal extension the sheep has, and then the width and dimension of his loin. There's no doubt in my mind that he cuts the largest loin eye in this class. He's got a little more depth, a little bit more width right over that rack, and he's definitely bigger in terms of that loin. The surprising sheep is the little red sheep here in second. I think when you get your hands on him, you analyze, really look at where the depth of that rib and where that loin hits into the center of that spinal column. I'm just pretty confident that this sheep has the second largest loin eye. I think he's got the most product up there, the three remaining. He's not the longest sided. He's definitely not the largest in size and scale, but I think he's one that has the most meat and dimension down his top. As you move into thirds, another really long-sided sheep. He's got a lot of extension to him. For me, this one's just a little bit more refined in his overall bone work and width and dimension at the base, and it continues up through his spinal column. He's just not as bold and pulled apart in terms of that structural capability. And when you get your hands on him, he just doesn't handle with that fullness and dimension and that width down his top. As we move down in four is a really pretty sided sheep, maybe one of the better top-line sheep in the class as far as levelness. But when you get on him, you analyze him in terms of that width and dimension in that loin. He's just given up some to some of his contemporaries in the class. Let's give him a round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for Class 5, late lambs. Results of Class 4. First went to Doug Brewer. Second went to Caitlin Walker. Third went to Doug Brewer. And fourth went to Tom Deerstein, with a first in 4-H going to Caitlin Walker. Should be 5 in this class.
As we get out here in this lamb class, we've got some differences again, but we're going to start off with a sheep that I think combines it together: structural integrity, width and dimension, length to side. Like I said, I'm not real big on size and scale as far as elevation. I think that's for the frame boys to figure out with their measuring sticks. But I think we're going to start off with a sheep that I think puts it together the most. He's definitely long on his side. He's decent on his feet and legs. He's got the most product down his top, I feel. I think he comes to the top of the class. The problem sheep for me is the sheep that comes in second. Really long-sided. He's full down his top, but I just need to change his back feet. They're just way too far out for me. I don't find him to be structurally unsound, but it's just one of those things in the show arena. I'd like to straighten those back feet up to give him a chance to beat the sheep up above. As we come in on the third, the sheep that I really like the fullness of loin. The sheep's got a big loin. I'd like to change him just a little bit in that rack. I'd like to strengthen him out in terms of the spinal column. I'd like to give him more width and dimension, more mass, more meat, more muscularity right up over the top of that rack, but a sheep that connects into a really good full loin. We come down in the little black sheep's one that's really pretty. He's pretty nice in his top line. I think when you look at him, you analyze him in overall width and dimension over his top, he's just not as bold and broad as this red sheep in front of him. He doesn't have that length and dimension to be able to beat the two that start the class. And we round out the class with a really young lamb in this class. He's just not as big and bold. He's not as big in terms of the center of his rib. He doesn't have that shape and roundness to him. We just want to make him rounder through his body so we can put more substance and muscle down his top. Let's give him a round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for pair of ram lambs, Class 6. Results of Class 5. First and second went to Doug Brewer. Third went to Jacqueline Yensha. Fourth went to Jacqueline Yensha. And fifth to Catherine Nielsen. Also in 4-H, first and second went to Jacqueline Yensha. Sorry. Okay, results of Class 6. First and second went to Doug Brewer, and third and open was Jacqueline Yensha, and first in 4-H. We're now ready for champion rams and open in 4-H. Put the open on the one side and the 4-H on the far side, please.
As we get out here to kind of explain, we've got two ram drives. We've got the champion open drive on this side, and we'll have the champion 4-H drive over there. So we're going to start with the open drive over here, and I think we've got four individuals that are really uniform and consistent. They got some length to side, they got some levelness down their top line, and they got some muscularity and meat and product down their top. But for me, there's just one that has more width and dimension down the top, and it's not just because of age. There's just more structural integrity and width in our yearling. He's going to be our champion, and we're going to follow him with the ram right behind him for reserve. As we get out here in our 4-H drive, I think we've got some really nice sheep, but there's just one for me. When you think you just look from the side and you look down the levelness of top line, then when you get right over the top of them and you look at width and dimension, I think there's an easy champion, which will be the ram right in the middle. And then it gets a little bit closer for reserve, but we're going to go with the red sheep here on the back for the reserve. Let's give them all a round of applause.
For those of you around ringside, I would like to honor our special sheep of the day. We're going to call her our special sheep. This is Macy. Macy has been with us at the Howard County Fair and competed at the fair for the last 18 years. She is approximately 126 years old in human age, and she is probably the oldest sheep ever to compete here for that many years. So let's give her a round of applause for making it here to the 77th Howard County Fair.
As we get out in this U class, it's really nice to see the numbers in the class, and we're going to start off with one that I just think takes it pretty easy. She doesn't show it as wide as she is, but when you get your hand on there, there's just nothing in the class that has a width and dimension in terms of that loin. Nothing has that depth of that loin. She's really long on her side, but she just really wins this class on the volume and muscularity down her top. As we move down in a second, there's a lot of people going to come in here and use this sheep to win it because she's longer fronted and she's more elegant. But for me, this is really a meat product class. We've got to have this carcass merit, and she has it, but I just don't think that she's going to cut anywhere near the top that the white ewe is going to cut. I'd like to change her just a little bit in her head shape. As we move down in here in 3, we've got a really pretty level top-lined ewe. I like this ewe. She's a little bit more refined at the ground, and we're not trying to make them big boned or anything, but she is a little bit finer boned even for her breed, but she's really wide and she's full in terms of her loin, and she carries into a really nice hip. We might could extend her a little bit, make her a little longer sided, but I really like this sheep. Seems to be a really easy fleshing ewe. As we move down to the next 2, I think they just kind of fit in their class right here. They're wide down their top. I just don't think they have the width and dimension of the 3 up above them, but they're level in their top line. They're really sound females in terms of the center of body they have them and their ability to be able to convert feed and be able to raise babies, and I like that mass in their body, center of their body. We come down here at the Grand Marshal of the parade today at the Macy Day Parade, and she took her champion stroll around. It's difficult when you get down to this age, but when you look at her, she's in really good health, but she just needs a little bit more width and dimension down her top to be able to move up higher in the class. As we move down in the next sheep, we just get to a group that need to be a little bit leveler in their top line, a little bit wider in terms of the overall width and dimension, add a little bit more product down their spinal column, and the ewe here on the end's got a side on her udder that's not as good as we'd like for it to be. Let's give them a round of applause. As we get out here in our U class, I think we've got a really nice set. We're going to swap this top pair here and then line them up the way they are, but I think there's just no way when you get your hands on top of this white ewe, the width and dimension she has down her loin. She's just the widest structural integrity sheep in the class. She's definitely the biggest at the base when you see her coming and going from you, but the amount of muscle that she has in her top, I just think she comes to class really easily. We're going to follow her up with a really long neck, feminine made female, one that's level down her top. She's got some width and dimension down her top. She just has nowhere near the amount of loin that the ewe that starts the class with. And then we come down in a ewe in third that I really do like. You know, we kid around about the color, but you know, in order to get out there and feed every day, you need to really like them. And I really do like this ewe's color. I admire from a top line standpoint. I think she's got a really stout spinal column in her. I think she's got some width and dimension. She's just not carrying as much mass as the two up above her, but one that I really like and find a lot of value in. We come down in a little bitty tan female that I think is really feminine and elegant made. We just need to make her wider for today. We just need to make her bolder across her top, be able to give her a more width and foundation to be able to put that amount of muscularity into her. And we come down with a little speckled ewe that's beautiful in terms of her color. Her spinal column is really level. But I think if we look at her all the way from the ground up and we look at her as far as her construction, she's the most refined one in the class. We just need to make her a little stouter made, a little bit rounder in terms of her rib, wider down her top where we can put a little more product. Let's give them all a round of applause.
All right, if you'll pair them up, please. Okay, we now pair of yearlings. Okay, we're now ready for senior ewe lambs. Results of class 12, pair of yearling, both sexes, first and second, went to Doug Brewer.
As we get in this class, we've got two really nice females in here. They're very definitely that they're long in terms of their side. They're really feminine in terms of their head and design. But we just got a ewe that's just boulder made across her loin. She's just wider in terms of her loin edge, deeper in terms of her loin edge. One that we really like her in terms of her spinal column. I think a really nice female to start this class off with. Again, we got long-sided, pretty elegant female. She just doesn't have the width and dimension down her top to be able to beat the ewe that wins the class. Let's give them a round of applause.
Yeah. Okay, we're now ready for Class 15, Early Junior Ewe Lambs. Please bring them to the ring.
As we get in this class, we've got a lot of differences in type and kind and size and scale, but we're going to start off with a ewe that's pretty surprising. I think she's definitely the biggest in terms of her loin. She doesn't look like it when she walks in here, but when you go and you analyze her and you look down the width down there top, the ewe that we start the class with has the most width and dimension in terms of her loin. I think she's acceptable in terms of her length of her side, and I think she's really nice down her top line, but she wins this class for me just the amount of muscularity that she has in that loin and that connection in that hip. A really long-sided, pretty fronted female that we like. She's really leveled out of her shoulder. We'd like to change her just a tick in terms of her hip set. We don't need them to be show lambs and dead level. That's not what we're trying to do. But this one wants to get just a little bit quicker in terms of the turn of her hip. She just doesn't have that width and dimension yet in terms of that loin set as the ewe that we start the class with. As we move down in threes, one that we really like her from a female standpoint. I really like this female. I think she's going to be big and bold and made in terms of her rib. I think she's going to be maybe the easiest fleshing, easiest converter, maybe the most productive female. But when we look at her, she doesn't have the width and dimension, and I'd really like to change her on her back legs a little bit. She's not terrible, but she wants to hawk in. She wants to get those feet out. I'd like to change her on her back legs. We change her on her back legs, give her just a little bit more substance down her top in terms of muscularity, and she may be able to compete to win this class. As we move down in fours, a really long-sided, pretty red female. She's definitely long and level down her top. She's just one of those fast growers. It's going to take a little bit, but I just don't read her to have that base width and dimension in terms of her base of her body cavity, and down that top to be able to compete with the three up above. As we move down the line, we've got sheep that's got a nice look to them. They've got some length and extension to them. We just need to put more product down the top of their spinal column to be able to get them up higher in the class. Let's give them all a round of applause.
Yeah. We're now ready for Class 16, late ewe lambs. Please bring them to the ring. Results of Class 15. First went to Molly Deerstein. Second went to Doug Brewer. Third went to Charlotte King. And also first in 4-H was Charlotte. Fourth went to Doug Brewer. Fifth went to Tom Deerstein. Sixth went to Catherine Nielsen. Seventh went to Eden Clemmer. Eighth was Catherine Nielsen, and ninth was Eden Clemmer. As in 4-H, it was first to Charlotte King, second to, and third to Eden Clemmer. In the ring now should be our late ewe lambs.
As we get into this class, we got some real surprises. We're going to start off with you that I think wins the class fairly easily for me. When you get your hands on her and you look at her in her width and dimension in terms of that loin and length and extension, I think she wins the class. When we move down to seconds, a really surprise. If you want to talk about just true rack shape and width and dimension right over her shoulders, this little bitty black ewe has the best rack shape of any sheep we've seen in the breed today. I told the young lady, you just find one piece that you can isolate when you get started in this thing and work with it. And this female is just really massive out in terms of her shoulder. She's got the right shape. She's got the width and dimension. She's got the depth of loin. Is she the biggest frame? Is she the longest sided? No, but she's a young ewe lamb, and I really like this female. I think she's leveled on her top. She's got that part that you can really start a flock with and lay into it and create something a little different. I really admire this black ewe lamb. I mean, she walks in the class. She doesn't look like she's going to fit in here, but she does. As we move into threes, another long-sided, pretty elegant female. She's cool and made up to her front end. She's long in terms of her neck. But when you get right down on top of her and you look at her width and dimension down her top and her hip, she just doesn't have the width and dimension to be able to beat the two up above her. We move down in another female. There's one that we really like in retainer capability. She's big in terms of the center of her body. She's got some sogginess to her. She's going to be able to convert feed. You just get right behind her, and her feet and legs are a little bit more refined. She's a little bit narrower made in terms of her overall spinal column, but one that we really admire her top line, and I really like the feed conversion that I read into her. As we move down to the next female, a female that we really like her top. She's leveled down her top. She's bigger in terms of her rack, but she's just not as wide defined all the way down the top. She's not structurally wide. We get back to those feet and legs, I'd like to change them just a little bit. If we come down to two females, we just need to make wider overall. Let's give them a round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for a pair of ewe lambs. Junior ewe lambs. Results of class 16. First went to Doug Brewer, second went to Jacqueline Yensha, third went to Doug Brewer, fourth went to Caitlin Walker, fifth and sixth were Catherine Nielsen, and seventh, Eden Clemmer. In 4-H, first went to Jacqueline Yensha, second to Caitlin Walker, and third to Eden Clemmer. In the ring should be our pair of junior ewe lambs. Should be five in this next class. Okay, we're now ready for Class 18, champion ewes. Please bring in your open on this side and 4-H on that side. And put them in by age.
For the crowd out here, what we're doing is we're basically judging two champions at the same time, and so you've got the open championship on this side, and you've got the 4-H on the other side, and I think it falls into place in both of them pretty easy for me. I think when we get out here in our champion drive and our open, we've got some really nice females. We don't pick or select on color. It just happened to be that we turned out with a wider set. I just think they had the most width and dimension down the turn of their loin. I think they have the most depth inside. When we look at these ewes, I think that we see some similarities in the fact that they've got some size and scale, but we're not selecting on frame height. For me, we are selecting on length of body because I think that's important. We're trying to find that set that has that soggy, big maternal rib cavity so we can take and convert forage into pounds of meat. But then what we really want is we want a really big top. We raise them to eat, we raise them for their top, and for me there's just two that are wider made in terms of their loin. They're bigger and bolder down their top, and then they separate this up pretty easy. I just think that this big ewe here standing in the second hole is by far the biggest loin sheep we have, and we're going to follow her up at a reserve with the man here in the middle. As we get into our 4-H over here, I think we've got some really nice pieces, and it's just kind of funny that we end up with all the open being white, and we end up with all the 4-H being colored. It wasn't set up that way, but I think we've got four nice individuals. I think we look at them, we've got some really nice starter flocks, and I think we've isolated a couple of pieces here genetically that we can build flocks to run the old people here out of the barn at some point, because that's what this goal is about, is to get y'all to take over the next generation and be the dominant forces in this thing, and I think we got a good start. For me, there's a couple of sheep that I think just have the pieces, and we talked about them in class. Our champion's going to be the little black ewe. She's just tremendous in terms of her rack shape and her dimension down her top, and I think we can go somewhere with this sheep, and our reserve's going to be the black ewe here on the front. Let's give them a round of applause.
All right, next class is twins to each other. If they're twins, please stay in the ring. No, they don't have to be the same sex. Just twins. Thank you again. The Katahdin breeders have done an outstanding job of showing their breed off. I'd like to appreciate what you've done, and we'll get started with our next breed as soon as the Katahdin breeders get moved back to their pens. Her life expectancy is limited. All right, we'd like to get started with our Hampshire breed. Please bring in your early junior ram lambs.
As we start our ham show today, we just got a single entry. We've got one that's really nice in terms of his height, in terms of his handle. He's long in terms of his side, big in terms of his loin. He's got a nice hip to him and big leg. We'd like to change him right out of that rack, make him bolder out of his rack, make him a little bit rounder in terms of that forerib, but a really nice individual to start the class. Let's give him a round of applause. As we get our little ham ewe lamb, we've got another single entry, but one that I really like. This one's pretty nice. She's leveled on her top. She's big in terms of her rack. She's got more of that round forerib. She's starting to come out of her shoulder just a little bit better. Really long level hip. We like this one. She's a really nice one. Let's give her a round of applause. As we get in this class of hams, I think we got a really easy class winner. I think she's really nice in terms of the length of her side. She's got some elevation and femininity to her front end. She's wider in terms of her loin. I just think there's more product down her spinal column in this one. Let's give them a round of applause. As we get out here in our champ ewe drive, I think there's just a really obvious winner for me. We're going to go with the ewe lamb here on the right. She's definitely the biggest in terms of her rack shape. She's definitely the longest in terms of her side, levelest out her hip. I really like this ewe lamb. She'll be our champion, followed with the ewe on the left of her reserve.
All right, if the Dorset breeders are ready, we'd like to move into the Dorset breed. So Chris, if you can hear me, I'd like you to bring your animals up, please. AOBs, you may be wanting to get your seat near ringside. As soon as we're done the Dorset show, we will move right in to the AOBs.
As we get out here in our Ram class, I think we've got a single entry, but we've got a really nice one. He's got a lot of size and scale, length and dimension. A sheep that's got some width and dimension down his top. A really nice one in a single entry. Let's give him a round of applause.
All right. Okay, results of Class 1. First place went to Christopher Seymour. We're now ready for Class 4, Early Junior Lamb Rams. Should be 3 in that class.
As we get out here in our Dorset Lamb class, I think we've got 3 really nice individuals, and for me, we got a class winner that comes up pretty easily. We get right to your hands down in that wool, and we take and analyze him in terms of the width of his loin and the way that he carries up over that rack. I think he's one that's probably the best in terms of his spinal column when we get him sheared off and slicked off. I think it's a really nice ram lamb to start the class with. As we move down in second and third, it gets a little bit closer. I think that they're very similar. I find the sheep that's in second to be just a little wider in terms of his dimension down his top. I will say that when he gets around the arena, he wants to scoot his back legs up under him a little bit more, get a little higher in that loin than a ram in third. But I think when you get right over the top of them, you analyze their base width and the way they get off those back wheels. I like this pair the way they stand. Let's give them a nice round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for a pair of ram lambs. Results of Class 4. First in open and 4-H went to Wyatt Carter. Second was Benjamin Carter in 4-H and open, and third was Wyatt in 4-H and open. First in pair of lambs in 4-H and open goes to Wyatt Carter. We're now ready to start the champion ram. Please bring in your yearling and first place lamb ram.
As we get out here in our champion Dorset Ram Drive, I think we've got 2 nice individuals. We both have some size and scale. One's definitely more of a frame type. One of them is kind of that intermediate sheep. For me, there's just a little more width and dimension down the lamb's top. We're going to use him for champion and follow with a yearling for reserve. Let's give him a round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for Class 10, Yearling Youth. Should be one in that class. I know he's got one. Should be two in that Yearling U class.
As we get out of our yearling U class, we've got one that's got a lot of length aside, and she's pretty and elegant and feminine made through her front end. She's got enough width and dimension down her top, a really nice one. Let's give him a round of applause. As we get into our fall U class, we've got a really nice one. You look at her, she's very elegant up through her front end. One of the things I've always admired about the Dorset breed is their neck and their extension, and I like the femininity of their head and their front ends in them. But this is a really good one. You get in here, she's just not all wool. She's got some top to her. She's got some width and dimension down her. I think this is a really nice one in her class. Let's give her a round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for Class 15, Early Junior U-Lamb. The results of the last class, Senior U-Lamb. Chris Seymour had first.
As we get out here in our dorsal U class, I think we've got three really nice ones. We got some length aside to them, but I think we're going to start off with the U that has the most width and dimension down her top. She's definitely one that I see more maternal capability, that big sound rib, got some depth of body to her. I really like the U that we start the class with. As we come down the U in second, she's probably the one that's got the brightest future in terms of growth and potential. She's really elegant through her front end. She's one that's just going to take time. On these frame sheep, they're going to grow first, and then they're going to thicken out, and they're going to mature. I think the long term, if we were doing this as a prospect show, this is probably the best prospect of the three, but for me, she's just not quite there today. And we run down into U in third that really like her in terms of her balance. She just needs to get better on her feet and legs. She wants to get really close with her feet and legs when she moves away from you, but a really nice class. Let's give them a round of applause.
Okay, we're now ready for our champion U. Please bring in your first place, open, and then we'll do the 4-H part.
As we get out here in our champion dorsal U drive, I think we've got three really nice females. They've got some length and extension. They've got some height and acceleration in terms of their growth. But for me, there's just one that puts it together the best in terms of her width down her top. She's got some muscularity to her. Our fall ewe lamb here is going to be our champion. Then when we get into our reserve, it gets a little bit closer. I really like the ewe lamb. I think she's got some future in her. She is a little bit higher in terms of her loin edge where she gets in there. But I really think there's some depth and some maturity in this female. It's going to make a really nice mama. And then we've got the yearling. That's a big, tall ewe. I find her to have a little more width and dimension down her top. Our yearling will be our reserve. Let's give them a round of applause. As we get out here in our AOB class, we've got one entry in here, a really nice one. He's got great touch to him, a really good firm hide. He's definitely big in terms of his loin. He's got some length and extension, and he's not really coarse made up through front, but he's yet still a dorper. I like him quite a bit. Let's give him a round of applause.
Okay, the results of Class 1 Early Junior Lamb is Greenbrier Acres. We're now ready for Class 5 late Ram Lamb. There should be one in that class.
We get out here, we got another single entry with his Tunis. A really nice top line sheep, level down his top. Let's give him a round of applause. As we get out here in our champion ram drive, when we analyze them down their top and we feel the width and dimension of these meat breeds, there's just a little bit more product to our dorper. He's going to be our champion. Our Tunis will be our reserve. Let's give him a round of applause. As we get out here in our U class, we've got another really nice female. She's big in terms of the center of her body. She's wide in terms of her loin. She's got some width and dimension and still maintains that chest floor and the shoulders in a nice package. We really like her. Let's give her a round of applause. As we get out here in our ULAM class, we got another dorper female that's really nice down her spinal column. She's refined through her front end. She's got some meat and product down her top. Let's give her a round of applause. And now we make the judge happy and bring a real breed in here, a Southdale. That's the kind you need to have for your birthday. This is a really nice, elegant female. She's really refined up through her front end. She's long in terms of her spinal column. She's got some width and dimension. I'd like to make her just a little bit stouter in terms of that hip placement and a little bit more lower third leg. But she's a really nice, pretty, feminine female that's got a beautiful front end. Let's give her a round of applause. As we get out here in our champion AOBU drive, I think we got some really nice females. I think all of them show some maternal capability to them. They've got some depth of body and some spring of rib. But for me, there's one that just has more width and dimension down her top. Our yearling ewe is going to be our champion. We're going to follow her with the down for reserve.
all sheep exhibitors. We will be starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, immediately following the Shropshire breed. We will go right into our Supreme Open and 4-H Ram and ewe. So please be around the show ring around that time. I would estimate maybe 9:30 or so for the Supreme Drive. It'll be 9 o'clock. We'll start the sheep show tomorrow morning.
I think it's your